services rendered.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the First Religious Society Unitarian Universalist in Newburyport, Massachusetts. My name is Serena Conradi, and it is my privilege to be your worship associate this morning. If you are here for the first time, welcome. We are glad you are here. We come together at FRS, online and in person, committed to love, peace, and justice. Our mission and our invitation to all of you is to come as you are, journey together in love, act with courage, transform our world. If you are worshiping online and would like to access this morning's order of service, please click on the link just below the live stream. If you would like a large print order of service or a hymn, please ask an usher and they will be happy to help you. I would like to draw your attention to the many activities and events happening here at the church listed in your order of service. There was a special congregational meeting today immediately following the service to vote on replacing the roof on the building. We will start at 11:45. We need a quorum, so if you have voted, please participate. If you are a member and have not yet registered, please see Diane Carroll in the vestibule after the service and she can check you in. Everyone is invited to join the meeting, however, only members can vote. We hope that everyone will join us next Sunday, March 17th, for Julia Parker Armory's first sermon before she retires. Final sermon. There will be a special party celebrating Julie in her decades of service after the worship in the lower meeting house. Everyone is invited to attend. And finally, Reverend Helen Mergita's memorial service is scheduled for April 13th at 1 p.m. This will be in person and on Zoom with a reception following in the parish hall. Thank you, and it's good to be together.
Thank you, Serena. It is good to be together. And I just invite us all to take a deep breath. There certainly is and has been a lot in our congregation's life, a lot in many of your lives individually, I know that, and in the world. And for the next time, we are here together. For those of you who are listening carefully, I want to say it's impossible that you have voted yet. So if you're a member, please stay and vote. I was hoping it would still be raining so I could point to the rain and say, so that it stops dropping on us and we can replace our roof. If you have been waiting to become a member, and I'm very serious, you could join today. You can just speak to Diane, but if you'd like your vote counted, please do that. Our call to worship this morning is from Proverbs, chapter 4, verses 25 to 27. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet, and be steadfast in all your ways. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Keep your foot from evil. Keep your foot from evil. You are faithfully called to worship. Let's rise in body or spirit and join together in our opening hymn number 360. Here we have gathered. We'll sing verses 1 and 2. thank you. You couldn't hear me. Sorry about that. We're lighting 2 candles of peace as we do each Sunday, representing 2 places on earth that need peace. There are countless numbers of places that need peace, and these 2 we lift up and hold as a sacred encounter with our world, both this morning through the week ahead. After each candle is lit, I'll invite us all to say peace in 3 languages: peace, salam, shalom. Our first candle this morning is lit for cities, towns, schools, civic and cultural organizations throughout our country, where Women's History Month is being celebrated this month. This year honors women who understand the need to eliminate bias and discrimination from our lives and institutions. We support the work of women who are committed to including everyone in the fight for personal dignity, freedom, opportunity, justice, and safety. And we also honor International Women's Day, which was celebrated on Friday. To this we respond: peace, salam, shalom. Our second candle this morning is lit for the city of Boston, where the United Way announced a coordinated effort with the Unitarian Universalist Association, the Black Refugee and Immigrant Community Coalition, and the Greater Boston YMCA, among other community organizations, to provide temporary emergency housing and support to approximately 25 families with children who have an urgent and immediate need for shelter in Boston. We do know that these families and children are being housed at our UUA headquarters. To this we respond: peace, salam, shalom. Let's rise, embody our spirit, and join together in our affirmation of faith, followed by the doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Go now in peace.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Sue Creed, and I am one of the co-chairs, along with Ray Wilson, of the annual Giving campaign. Last week, Teddy Speck identified 3 positives of being a UU. 1 is that we drink coffee. 2 is that we ask questions. And 3, we take the summers off, which he did post-high school for about 20 years. But not me. I didn't take the summer off post-high school from the FRS. Raised in this church, I was 100% involved in FRS life, which included my social life. With a litany of involvement too lengthy to mention, I waited till about the age of 55 to take the summer off. Not entirely off, but I was considerably less involved than I had been, only joining in choir and a few select activities that did not require me to do too much, make a commitment, or take any responsibility other than show up now and again. Backing off, I thought I'd try going to the Haverhill UU Church, but despite being a 15-minute drive from my house and knowing Reverend Frank Clarkson, it just didn't do it for me. And why? Because there is no place like this place in my heart or my mind. And so the 30-minute drive to Newburyport is what I must do. Laid back, retired, on extended vacation from FRSUU involvement, I sauntered along for about 15 years. That is, until this year. This year, and I put all the blame on Reverend Rebecca, right there, I have jumped back in, all in, and into the deep end of the pool, becoming co-chair with Ray of this year's annual giving campaign. And what is this year's theme? Strengthening sacred connections in our interconnected world. Right? Here I am. Now, in the thick of it all here, I am becoming fully aware of all that I have missed these last 15 years. I have missed deeper connections with people I have known for years. I have missed making a connection with Reverend Helen Regita, in whom, according to her biography, I would have found a kindred spirit. And I have missed working with more extraordinary people in new contexts with all the latest programming we offer here. Whoops. Oh, there we go. This church attracts amazing people. And the generosity of people who have stepped up to be captains and stewards and organizers of events and parties has me shaking my head at their considerable devotion. And the people on the Giving Campaign Advisory Committee, they too are beyond wonderful. Comprised of staff and volunteers, their skills and talents are miles deep and miles wide. And being immersed in the process of this event as co-chair has left me in awe. And so as I go out once again, as I did many times in the past to be a steward, I just know I am going to experience joy in the renewed connections that await and the new connections I am about to make. And as I make my calls, I know getting to know you all better, strengthening my connections with you, is sacred.
Good morning. I'm Ray Wilson, and this is my church. You are my church. This meeting house, which we love so much, is a building. You, all of you, and others not here today are my church. I joined the FRS, signed the book on May 7th, 2000. Outside of my birth family, this is the longest lasting major relationship of my life. Longer than jobs, schools, close friendships, even marriages. I'm seldom in Newburyport during business hours, but if I am and I have a few minutes, I'll walk into this sanctuary. Sit down, look around at these plain gray walls, white trim, clear glass windows, and then, if there's any tiny speck of dust on my glasses, I'll suddenly see it clearly and clean them. This is a metaphor for what this church means to me. It helps me see life and what I must do more clearly. It nudges the better angels of my nature. When I'm so happy that my feet so hardly touch the ground, I love being with my beloved community, with people who are glad to see me happy, and that gladness brightens their day. When I'm miserable and life feels like ruins and ashes, the love of my friends here restoreth my soul, and that brightens my day, and theirs too. Good leaders know that if you ask of people a lot more than they can give, they just burn out. But if you ask them just a bit more than they think they can give, they'll often come through, surprising themselves as much as anybody else. If any of this strikes a chord with you, please ponder what this church does for you, for your family, for the wider community. Then pledge as generously as you can. And if by chance you have your filled out pledge card in your pocket and you're considering maybe increasing it a little bit, there should be another blank pledge card in the pew, and if not, the ushers will happily give you one.
The generosity of our community is an essential ministry that supports the work of the church, both in Newburyport and beyond. Each week, 50% of the Sunday offerings not designated as a pledge goes to a local community partner engaged in important efforts to transform our region. March's shared collection goes to benefit UTEC. UTEC's mission is to ignite and nurture the ambition of our most disconnected young people, to trade violence and poverty for social and economic success. They serve Lowell, Lawrence, and Haverhill. The program starts behind the walls of correctional facilities and transitions into an intensive program in the community post-release. 87% of young adults in their workforce development programming had no new re-arraignments. Please help fuel this hope for these young people in this program. At this time, the offering will now be received. Reverend Rebecca, Sue, and Ray will also be on the chancel to receive pledge cards for the annual giving campaign.
This is a time in our service where we pause and lift up the joys and sorrows, the celebrations and concerns of our beloved faith community. Linda Harding, our pastoral care associate, will light candles as I share what has been sent to me in advance of today's service. We light a candle of love and blessed memory for Jane Burnham, Rob's beloved wife of 54 years. Jane took flight, Rob says, took flight toward the light on March 4th after a lengthy struggle with Alzheimer's and dementia. Granddaughter Astrid was at her side. Jane was under the care of hospice in their home. Jane, having been a very devoted nurse herself and also spent her final years serving in hospice, was cared for with the same love and attention. Her service will be here on April 20th. We light a candle of deep love and care and concern. Annie and Lark Madden share that their beloved son, Will, has been diagnosed with a brain tumor. Surgery will take place next week in New York City, where Will lives with his girlfriend, Kaylin. Annie and Lark will be with them there on and off over the next few weeks as he recovers from surgery. And they are certainly held in our love and care. I also ask that we light a candle of love and concern and deep, deep prayer for Aster Shepard. We shared a little while ago that Aster had been diagnosed with a serious cancer. Aster has returned to Beth Israel in Boston, where I was with her on Thursday evening and been in great regular touch with her sister when we talked about this candle, where we really are asking for your prayers. I said, thank you for allowing us to love her. And she said to me via text, well, if the cards from FRS UU are any indication, I couldn't have stopped it if I wanted to. We also light a candle of care and concern for Mary Lou Monterio, a new member to FRS, who asks for our love and prayers, positive and healing energy for her and her surgical team when she gets her hip replaced this Friday. We light an additional candle of care and concern for the Speck family, who last evening dealt with an unexpected situation with fourth sister Nancy, who is currently at St. Augustine's. So we hold them in our loving thoughts and prayers. We also share joys, as we do each week. This is 3 candles in one. We light 3 candles of joy and thanks for 3 FRS beloveds. Paula Esty, founder of the PEG Center for Art and Activism. Paula received one of 3 individual community service awards in the city for transforming her art gallery into a space committed to community service, civic engagement, and activism. We honor the enthusiasm and commitment to justice demonstrated by Paula and all of her volunteers and celebrate her membership among us. We also light a candle of joy and honor for one of our young church families, Ben and Becca Fundus, owners of the Screening Room, who received the Business Service Award for their collaboration with many local organizations, such as the Jeannie Geiger Crisis Center, the PEG Center, Storm Surge, the Merrimack Valley Feline Rescue Society, and the Newburyport Documentary Film Festival, just to mention a few, all to expand public information and/or fundraising. I also know Pride was another one, and there have been so many. It is an act of love and service. And our third candle in this same category, we can be a little proud, right? We can love each other proud, is for one of our youth, Nash Hansen, who received a Peace Award from the City of Newburyport's Human Rights Commission this week. Nash was honored for being an upstander, a role model, and fostering a culture of support, inclusivity, and collaboration at school. And his proud parents, who I'm loving up over there, Joanna and Chris, shared these words, quote, these are not values that developed in a vacuum. We are acutely aware that for 10 years, Nash's FRSUU community has fostered, reinforced, and modeled all of these values. And also, Tamara and Teddy, the community at Theater in the Open has done the same. Thank you, everyone, they say, for being guiding lights in Nash's life. And we light another candle of gratitude for the Crossing Paths program. There's a lot more you can read on Monday and Between Us about what they've been doing. These are our middle schoolers. This used to be Neighboring Faiths, same program. They've studied Unitarianism, they've studied Quakerism, Catholicism, and this week they will begin exploring Islam. And they will welcome our worship associate this morning, Serena Conready, and Soma Mazzari, who had lived next door, as guests as they begin to learn that exploration. And our final candle of joy and celebration is for our FRS Habitat for Humanity team. With the help and hard work of our FRS Habitat volunteers, among many others, the Salisbury House project is now complete. I want to thank this volunteer team who, for years, have shown up once a month, every month on a Saturday, and given of their time and of their hard work and seen this project through. And we light one final candle, as we do each week, representing all of the sorrows and the joys, the hopes and the prayers that, although unspoken, are held in just as much love and care. And I invite us now into a period of centering, meditation, contemplation, prayer, where I'll share a poem this morning as a prayer at a time in our church's life and in the world and in many of our individual lives where so much is happening, so much that can feel overwhelming, feel too much, that just takes our plans and throws them out the windows. I offer this prayer. By Pat Schneider, The Patience of Ordinary Things. It is a kind of love, is it not? How the cup holds the tea, how the chair stands sturdy and foursquare, how the floor receives the bottom of shoes or toes, how soles of feet know where they're supposed to be. I've been thinking about the patience of ordinary things, how clothes wait respectfully in closets, and soap dries quietly in the dish, and towels drink the wet from the skin of the back, and the lovely repetition of stairs. And what is more generous than a window? May we find peace in the wild things, peace in our hearts, peace in the ordinary, allowing ourselves to take stock and to know how deeply we are loved. Amen.
Friend, I have
This month's theme is covenant, which is an agreement with God. For me, this agreement is following your dharma, your true calling, your sacred duty. I'm going to share with you a little bit about dharma and the Bhagavad Gita's message for your true calling. The Bhagavad Gita is part of the epic Mahabharata, a core text in the Hindu tradition. The story is a dialogue between the warrior princess Arjuna and the god Krishna, who is serving as his charioteer at the Battle of Kurukshetra. This is the literal translation, but like many stories written in the past, it is a way of passing knowledge down through the generations. This story is a metaphor for how to live life. There have been many interpretations of the Gita, and I have read several, but I found one of the best interpretations, in fact, life-changing for me, was Stephen Cope's The Great Work of Your Life. Let me share with you some of the aspects I found so profound. I will start by talking about Henry David Thoreau, who was a Unitarian, and like many famous philosophers and writers, he read the Bhagavad Gita. He used the word dharma in his writings. Thoreau, like every good yogi, saw his entire life as a kind of trek towards dharma. He wrote that a man's trek through life should always be on the trail of one's own deepest nature. He said, "For it is the fearless living out of your own essential nature that connects you to the divine." Today, he is known as one of America's greatest writers, but he was widely disregarded and overlooked in his own time. He required tremendous courage to acknowledge the gift within him in the face of widespread disapproval. Although he did come to value his gift, early in his career, he did take a stab at trying to fit in, to be who he thought he should be rather than who he was. At the age of 26, he set out for New York City, intent on securing his place in the city's literary scene. He was a colossal failure in the city. After a year of floundering, he went home, returning to his woods, his pond, humbly. His failure in New York City was a life lesson. Be who you are, what you love, follow your own distant drummer. Failure is part of all great Dharma stories. We only know who we are by trying on various versions of ourselves. When the clothes do not fit well, it clarifies things for us. In any quest for Dharma, there will inevitably be lots of trying on of outfits. In Cope's book, he talks about the 4 pillars of Dharma, which I'll briefly mention here. The first is know your Dharma. It's your qualities, your characteristics, your disposition, your idiosyncrasies. It is not transactional. It is what you're doing when you're in the state of flow, just being, doing for the sake of doing. Most people already live very close to their Dharma, within spitting distance. It does not mean giving up your life, living in a cave, sailing around the world, or moving to Paris, although that would be nice. The obstacles to Dharma are fear and doubt. Dharma is a path of action for the everyday person. So pillar 1, name your Dharma and refine it. Pillar 2, give it all you got. Remember, the abundance of the universe is behind you. Trust in this gift. Some surrender is required. The key is you have to take the leap of faith into the darkness and remember, each of us sees some aspect of the world's suffering acutely that others don't see or don't care about. So follow your gift. The third pillar, let go of the fruits of your actions. For me, what I found profound about the third pillar, it's about being detached, awareness, mindfulness work, meditation, but it's not about being detached from your Dharma. You need to do the work in pillar 1 and 2, naming and giving it all you got before jumping into pillar 3. And finally, pillar 4 is turn it over to God, to grace. When you realize something is at work within you that you surrendered to, it is not your ego producing it, but God working through you. The best example Cope gives of someone turning over to God is of Harriet Tubman, the famous rescuer of slaves in the American South. Cope writes of Tubman's raids in the South as toe curling. By all accounts, she had the uncanny ability to evade danger. She could evaporate into thin air with a whole troop of fugitives. She had a second sense about when to move and when to stay undercover, hunches that often defied common sense. She had a sense of which riverbed to follow, which house might be safe, and which house might harbor danger. Cope looks at her life through the lens of Dharma. She surrendered to her Dharma and turned it over to God. So I say, follow your calling, name it, give it all you got, let go of the fruits of your actions, and turn it over to God.
Thank you, Serena, who lives those things remarkably beautifully. One of the many things we learn when life takes unexpected and difficult twists and turns, as it does and will, one of the many things we learn, if we're willing, is the necessity of allowing friends, loved ones, even strangers, to help us. So yes, I'm referring to all that has gone on in the last week and how I have allowed just one example of people to help. I am blessed to be part of 2 ministerial collegial groups, small groups, covenanted. We can say anything we need to. We keep each other sane. We laugh. We cry. We hold each other's pain. So this is not the sermon that was advertised. Because when my dear colleagues learned of all that we at FRS and the community at large are going through with Reverend Helen's tragic death and many things they didn't even know about, but I do, and you've heard some this morning, they immediately offered to share some of their sermons with me so that I could preach them as just, quote, one small thing they could do to ease the burden. I told them that that wouldn't work last Sunday, that I really needed to be with all of you and share the words that come through me and that you tell me and that I know we needed to hear, and I was so moved by what we created together. However, this Sunday, I said, could probably work. And I told them that our topic was Dharma. So the first sermon that one of my colleagues sent me, and this is a true story, was a sermon that was about my grandparents, who were elders in the first congregation she served in Brewster, Massachusetts. When I opened the sermon, it was about Dharma, but when I opened the sermon and it was about them following their Dharma, as you use. Sorry. It wasn't the right sermon, not because of my grandparents, but because of some of the other messages. It just wasn't right for right now. And yet its gift was no less important. My grandparents are here. They died many years ago. They were my light. We are always surrounded by love if we open ourselves to it. So the second sermon someone offered, another minister, was perfect. And that is what I'm about to share with us. It is a sermon about Dharma entitled Making Raspberry Jam. So for any of us who are listening to Serena's eloquent words, wondering to ourselves, I am not Thoreau. I'm not Harriet Tubman. Well, this is about making raspberry jam as your Dharma. Delivered by one of my dear friends, Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey, minister of the Arlington Street Church in Boston. Making raspberry jam. And these are her words. I recently overheard a debate about how to pronounce the Tibetan mantra, Om Mani Padma Hum. I was glad, she said, to know just enough not to engage. Om Mani Padme Om is known as the Mani mantra. It doesn't really have an English translation, or at least not one that would make much sense to most of us. But it is said to be an invocation to the spirit of compassion. In Tibet, stones painted or carved with the Mani mantra, Mani stones, are everywhere. If you see the mantra, it is said to have the same effect as saying it out loud or silently to oneself. Spinning the written form of the mantra around in a prayer wheel is also believed to invoke compassion. In every land influenced by Tibetan Buddhism, there is a profusion of Mani wheels. Small hand wheels, huge wheels, with millions of copies of the mantra inside. She said, I wanted to share this because Om Mani Padme Om features quite prominently in the story that I'm going to tell you today from one of her favorite spiritual teachers, Ram Dass. Ram Dass was born in Boston in 1931. His parents named him Richard Alpert. As a psychologist in the early 1960s, he was best known for his research at Harvard with Timothy Leary into psychedelic drug-induced states of consciousness. In 1967, Dr. Alpert left for India, where he began to study for a different kind of enlightenment under the direction of Neem Karoli Baba, who gave him the new name Ram Dass, which means servant of God. Ram Dass remade himself, teaching and serving all over the world, which, despite a debilitating stroke 10 years ago, this was 2007, he was continuing in 2007 to this day and is no longer. He told this story in the early 1970s, and it remains one of my favorites. It's a whole sermon all by itself. And this is what he wrote. He said, I was in India when my mother died. I had to come back to be with my father in a new way than I was ever before with him. When I came back to Boston from India, I arrived at the airport and I was wearing a beard and I was barefoot, and I had come from India with my tambora, kind of Asian lute. And I was generally a weird-looking being, at least to his father. My father came in his car to pick me up, a conservative Boston Republican, and a lawyer, very responsible member of our society. He took one look at me, Ram Dass said, and his response was, good God, get in here quick before anybody sees you. Which I did. And we started to drive to the house. Remember, his mother had died. Now, what he regaled me with all the way home was the fact that he was experiencing a depression, a deep, deep depression. As he believed he was approaching his own death, he couldn't imagine life without his wife. He was 72 at the time. He told me, Ram Dass said, all about how his life was meaningless. Even though he had started Brandeis University, had been president of the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad, and done lots of glorious and grand things in his life. He was experiencing the feeling that he was a failure as a human being. He was telling me all about his will and the clauses in his will. And I was just sitting in the car doing, in my own mind, my Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And it was like his mind was creating this heavy, heavy, depressed place. It's all over. Life is meaningless. I'm a failure. We'll just look through old photographs tonight, he said to his son. You know that kind of place. And I just kept saying my mantra in my mind, silently. We got home and my father said, what do you want to do now? And I said, I don't care, Dad. Anything you would like to. And he said, well, you need to rest. You've had a long trip. I'm going to make some raspberry jam. That's one of his hobbies. And so Ramdas said, well, can I help you? No, don't bother, his father said. Ramdas said, I'd like to help you. Well, his father said, all right. So we started to make raspberry jam. We're sterilizing the bottles, we're mashing the raspberries and so on, and he's telling me about the horrors of his life, how sad it is. It's a very, very heavy story. I feel fantastic compassion for him because I love him dearly. And at the same moment, I see where he's stuck. So I'm just doing my mantra in my mind. Om Mani Padra Om. Mashing raspberries, and so on. And I'm saying things out loud to him like, should the bubbles rise all the way to the top? Where do we put that? And so on. Since I'm giving him no reinforcement at all for this fantastic dark cloud that he's creating and holding all by himself, since I'm part of us, but I'm not helping him hold it up, after a little while he begins to say, well, you got to get all the bubbles up. And pretty soon our conversation is shifting until it's here and now. That is, he's talking and telling me how to make raspberry jam. And he starts to talk about how to make jam. And as he does so, the lines on his face start relaxing. The whole model of himself as somebody who's old, about to die, and all of that stuff, well, it all started falling into the past. And there we are, making raspberry jam. Just two guys making raspberry jam. By the time we finish making jam, he's happy. He's smiling. And I, the whole time, have been repeating my mantra of compassion. 8 months later, I gave away the bride at my father's wedding, he writes. And for the rest of my father's long life, whenever I called them, the newlyweds, they would be heading out to dinner, having people over, traveling. They were writing songs or movie routines together at the piano. His father writing love songs. My father writing love songs. At the wedding, just before they went into the temple, my father turned to me and said, "This is all you're doing, you know." Reverend Kim says, "My spiritual companions, it all starts right here, right now. There are realized beings who walk on water, but those same beings stand in the kitchens of the bereaved, and they make raspberry jam." She says, "May we give ourselves the gift of our gift, of the healing power of coming fully into the present, and may we pass it along. Let's seek our own version of jam making right now. We'll find it in all the unexpected places. Let us invoke the spirit of compassion. Let's embody compassion. Let's give ourselves to love." It's another UU minister who says those things. And I add in my words, let's honor our path. Let's honor our path, the Dharma that we're following today. The authenticity, the integrity, the presence of now, just now. Let's see its power, whatever it looks like, even when it's making jam, which I can't do, so it isn't my Dharma. Our Dharma looks different, my friends. Different between us, different in our own lives as time goes on. Although, as William Safford says, if you look, there is a thread that has followed you all through your life. That's your Dharma. Amen, and blessed be. Let's rise in body or spirit and join together in hymn number 1064 in the Teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home, again, verses 1 and 2. Such a creature of habit. Let's join together in our unison affirmation as Serena extinguishes the chalice. Bear with me, please. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always. Again, members and friends will be having a meeting starting right at 11:45 online and here. So please, if you haven't yet checked in with Diane Carroll, please do in the vestibule. She needs to know you're here for your vote to count. And if you hadn't registered and you're here and you can stay a little longer, please do, so we have our quorum. We really do need to vote on replacing this roof. And before I lead us in our blessing, I do want to share, though this feels rather like, but this is what the UU trauma team told me I needed to share with you, who I have been working with, and they are wonderful. And they are very supportive of everything we've been doing. They'll be working with Pastoral Care Associates and the Addictions Ministry team and ushers and staff this Friday. But as they heard what we've been doing, they said, you got it. You understand, not me, we understand what it means to be a community and to hold one another and to allow others to hold us. So I will be gone next week to a several-year planned yoga retreat in Costa Rica. And I thought for a moment about canceling it, and I won't tell you who, but he's somewhere over there, said, no. So you will be so well cared for, not only by our board, but we have 5 ministers, Reverend Kim being one of them, who are lined up to be with you. And it's not because you need 5 of them to replace me, you don't, but they all have their own congregations. You will be well. Take care of yourselves. Let there be room for joy and for self-care and for love. Because my friends, the pain is always going to be there too. And so as we go from this place, may we go lifted up. May we go knowing that we are a part of such a sacred connection. May we go knowing that distance holds no measure when it comes to love. That we are deeply interconnected with the world, with nature around us, with the elements, with people living and who have gone on. And as we go forth this day and this week, let ourselves feel that, and then turn and share it in every way you can. Go in peace, my friends. Return again in great joy. Amen and blessed be.